Welcome to the Munro Review, where it's all about connecting, sharing, and valuing the arts in the central San Joaquin Valley. I'm Donald Munro. Today is April 24th, and I am coming to you from the beautiful CMAC studio in downtown Fresno. We have two exciting in-studio segments for you today. Dan Pisano is here to talk about Fiddler on the Roof at Good Company Players. Lots to talk about there. And we have the Selma Arts Center represented with Adrian Oseguera, co-director of Matilda, and Charlotte Nelson, who plays the title role. But first, let's take a look at some of what I've been covering on MunroReview.com. TMR reporter Doug Hoagland has been working hard covering Measure P, the city sales tax measure that will, for the first time, disperse at least $5 million to local arts organizations. It could be up to $9 million, which just shows how unsettled all this still is. Whenever there is money involved, the opportunities for, shall we say, vigorous public discussion ensues. Should the big established arts organizations that struggled through COVID get a substantial chunk of those funds? Or should smaller and newer arts organizations, perhaps even ones that haven't been formed yet, be given a priority? Should the bulk of the money go toward operational costs or shiny new projects? Those are all questions we're still trying to answer. The deadline for applications has passed, and volunteer adjudicators are helping make decisions. We at the Munro Review have lots of questions, of course, as should be expected when you're talking about taxpayer money. In Doug's latest article, we explore just how transparent the process is going to be. TMR requested the names of the applicants and the adjudicators. We were refused. We've filed Public Information Act requests and are exploring other ways to make sure that this awarding of millions of dollars is done in the clean, disinfecting sunshine of public attention. Other recent stories. The performing arts season is in full swing with lots of theater, classical music, and visual arts happenings. Look for reviews of such ongoing shows as Fiddler on the Roof, Matilda, and On Golden Pond, and coverage of such recently closed shows as Moon Over Buffalo and the Broadway tour of Mean Girls. Plus, keep up with the Fresno Philharmonic, Fresno Art Museum, Arte Americas, and more. You can find all that coverage at MunroReview.com. Now, let's get to our first guest. Dan Pisano is here. Does he need an introduction? I think not. Thank you, Dan, for being here.
Oh, my pleasure of being anywhere. No green bananas, you know.
So this is number 7.
I guess so, yeah.
For Good Company.
Yeah.
Can you tell us just a little about that first production, which you did in 1980?
Yeah. Memorable. Clyde Ramsey was Golda, and the whole cast kind of embarked on this project early in the days at Roger Rocca's Dinner Theater, smaller stage, a lot of people and all of that. And the run was successful, so it was extended. But the memorable things for me, Eddie Manuel directed it, and
he, the noted Fresno State theater professor.
Yeah, and
playwright.
Loved it, and loved the work, and we gained a lot of insight into it. You know, it's tough being Italian, playing one of the definitive Jewish characters of all time. So I really needed to make sure I wasn't stepping on any cultural lines or whatever. But I remember a couple of things vividly. Keith Stoner, wonderful, one of our kids was a stage manager, but he's the guy that had to leave the booth and come and sing the Russian solo because he was the legit tenor that we had. And lots of fun moments like that of pasting it together. And then it had a long run. It had 80 performances.
Yeah, it
had a double
amazing.
run. Yeah, we lived through most of them.
At this time, present day, Fiddler is just, everyone knows the story. It's iconic. The songs are iconic.
Yeah.
Did it feel that way in 1980, or was it still a new experience for some?
I think it was frightening.
people?
It's always been a little bit frightening for those very reasons. It's iconic, and is that Zero Mostel standing in the wings? Are Bach and Harnick sitting in the audience listening? And is everybody that goes to synagogue checking to see what is happening and how? So, I think there's that built-in pressure of not wanting to screw it up, for sure. I don't think that's ever changed.
Mm-hmm. So to kind of start things off, I'm calling these my speed questions. I don't usually write any questions down for these interviews, but I figure I'm gonna do this with Dan. So question 1: if your house had one long, let me start again. If your house had one long stairway just going up and another even longer going down, does that mean it's crooked?
There is one more leading nowhere, just for show.
Just one more leading.
And so that, yes, but dreams are crooked, and when you go logical, it doesn't work as well.
That is, I think, is my favorite line in the story, in the show. It's the one that will pop into my head just sometimes.
You're the only one that gets it. It's always a game to see what I'm throwing out there and what they get, and maybe they're just rooting for me to survive it. I don't know, but I always think this is funny, folks.
It's a
the
really
logic
funny
is
song.
there. Yeah.
I also love his wife ordering the servants around, just screaming at them.
Screaming at them day and night.
That's you've made it. You get to do that. Okay, so question 2. What would Tevye's position be on almond milk?
I think he'd worry about what he had to do to the cows to get them to produce it. And I think of it as a product. The only problem is no one in the town would change tradition.
Right.
That would be a problem.
Right. They'd say this tastes really.
Yes, this does not traditional.
So Tevye has 5 daughters?
Yes, 5.
Approximate for us the reaction on Tevye's face when he found out number 5 was a girl.
Well, he says, daughters, daughters. Actually, in his heart, the great line from Carousel, you can have fun with a son, but you have to be a father to a girl. And that is probably what echoes in Tevye's head that goes directly to his heart.
Right. And there's a real sweetness there. I think Tevye likes to complain.
Oh, yeah.
But he also wouldn't have it any different.
My sidebar on that is making all of the comments about expecting a daughter. I want a boy, it's got to be a boy. And then being in the delivery room and the doctor saying, it's a girl, do you want me to put it back? Give me that baby.
Right,
That's what I said. So, I think the baby is the thing. The sex of the baby is way down the road. Yeah.
So our last speed question is, how often in real life do you, Dan Pisano, say L'chaim?
Never.
Never? So never at a toast or a bar or?
No, never. L'chaim. And I want to say it correctly. No, it's just, I want to say it correctly. But I don't drink. It's one of the hardest damn things to do is to get drunk in that bar in a short time. But no, I don't.
And I've always wondered, do lines from different musicals or bits of dialogue or lyrics, do they pop into your head often? Like you'll be just confronting, like you're in line at the DMV and then suddenly something comes in.
Yeah, no, they are there, thank goodness, forever. They're inspiring, and you hear a little lick of music or something. And if you want to be clever, then you come back with something that somebody said that you've heard, and so it's another bullet in the gun. But Yes, I do hear the licks. We're just auditioning Our Town, and believe me, that script is somehow from your heart to your head, and you hear those lines for sure.
So now we're going to do a little memory lane trip. We've got some pictures to show you, and I think we're going to be able to do those in order.
Okay. Okay.
So maybe these will trigger some memory. We'll keep it pretty short, breezy.
Yeah, I am pretty short.
But yeah, so if we can start with the very first production, which is 1980.
Okay, that's Clyde Ramsey, the definitive Golda. Lee Ratliff, who was about 79, was with us, is Golda now, and she's wonderful. But yeah, never forget her.
Has the scenic design changed a lot?
Oh yeah,
or?
Yeah, but you can tell by the lighting how primitive it is. I hope we've moved forward. But you know, we used to take pictures from an actual camera.
Yes,
you know, remember those days?
Right,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So next, and I think this is still 1980.
Yeah, it's Italian does Rich Man.
Okay.
You know, my sidebar on Rich Man is that I sit there backstage on the wagon and I always say, can't there be more verses to Matchmaker? Can't we delay this a little longer?
That's another song that goes through my head a lot too.
Yeah, you can't get rid of it. But yeah, that's probably there.
Okay.
I never liked this picture because it was just staged and it's ridiculous. You know, you can't be on the outside posing for that guy.
Right.
It's either on the inside out or get the hell off.
And so this
stage.
was 1984.
Yeah, probably. And you know, I think I may have actually done that in the show. So
it looks kind of like a yoga pose.
Yeah, I hear the bullet going into the chamber right now. Okay, that's Chris Proctor as Golda. That is my wife, Lori, on her right as Zeidel. And I'm still dark-bearded. That was a good news. Kelly Babigian is right in front of me, and she now has been a mover and shaker at St. Agnes forever. These are all Audra's cohorts and juniors.
Right.
Yeah.
Wonderful. 1994.
Yeah, that's Laura Ramallo at the time. Chris Mangles, who's so wonderful down at COS, the world's tallest model, is there. And he was terrific. And you know, when you stand up to model and you're looking at his chest and you're supposed to be yelling at him, I do recall that.
And we all know who that the little girl is.
Yeah, well, it is in fact not in this. The next picture, the little girl happens to be Emily's first. She was 8, and she started out just in the ensemble, and somehow by the wedding of Zeidel and Model, she ended up on the chair next to Zeidel in a prime move. So she had a nose for where the focus was.
This is Emily Pisano, your daughter.
Yeah, it is my daughter.
Then the year 2000.
Yeah, that's Laura Berry, who is Golda. We're using the same bench.
Well,
I'm just blocked on the other side, so maybe I got a better side.
That's recycling.
Yeah, believe me, so am I.
And these kind of go in increments of maybe 6 or 7 years apart. That's kind of your general rule, right?
Yeah, we try to have a 7-year statute of limitations. I hate this picture because the focus is so screwed up. Look at Mark Larson. What the heck is he looking at when that's the constable, you know? So
it is
I'm over it.
It is sort of like a one of those romantic paintings of French 18th century or whatever. People are gazing off into different.
Yeah, it's nice when you say that when the lighting is so lousy. It makes me feel better.
This would be
Tessa Cavallado.
2013.
Yeah, now I'm on the right side of the bench, but it's the same bench.
Okay. So you and the bench are
we're non-negotiable. It looks like.
Tell me about the beard. Do you only do the beard for Tevye?
Yeah, and I
Is there
love
any
it.
other role that you have done a beard
No,
for?
not that I can recall. And it changed the relationship with my granddaughter pretty quickly. Yeah, this is wonderful. It's the Tessa production. But the last one in line there is Tammy Cowger. And the news about this that's so important to me is that Tammy was pregnant at that time with her daughter Kendall, and her daughter just got married. So her daughter's 30, I guess, huh?
And her daughter went on to many roles. And,
it was terrific.
It's
did wonderful things at Selma.
It's amazing how the love of theater gets passed down.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah. And
Well,
then this is the...
Yeah, that's Cindy Baggett. I am on the same side of the bed in the current production. It's probably my same outfit. And the dream scene, we throw everything but the kitchen sink at it.
Oh, yeah.
To try to make it go. Travel a lot of miles on that bed. In a circle. In a circle.
In a circle.
Yeah.
That could be a long title for a novel.
Yeah. Well, the good news about this picture is that I'm doing what everybody else is doing, because that's one of the variables in my current abilities.
And you're pretty much always standing out front, so...
Yeah, that really is a bad mistake. My wife directed and choreographed, and I would never say anything out loud, but that's what I would say. You know, hide the duck. It's a strategy for theater.
Okay, well,
we're back to human.
A little bit of
thanks for doing
memory, but that did spark one of my other speed questions that I forgot to ask was, have you ever made up a dream for ulterior purposes?
Oh, you mean that someone came to me and told me what to do?
Exactly,
like
right,
that.
right.
You know, sometimes you use the line, everybody says, when it starts out like that, I think you're usually about to step on the landmine. And I may have done that, but you know, I have good dreams, and then I wake up and I can't go back, and that's frustrating.
Right, it's like you want...
Yeah, I want to see how the story ends.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, I'm thinking about that a lot more right now.
Why do you think Fiddler still resonates so much with people?
I think it's simply put, it touches people. You do get to laugh and you get to see that. But there's nothing more important to me than the story of being a father. I don't think parents can watch and not feel that tug, and that's it's there. And it's so well written and so respectful, and it tugs at you. And I think when you go to theater, if you laugh a little and you cry a little, and you can identify with what's going on. You know, Fiddler is amazingly current events. It's happening in Kiev and in the Ukraine.
Yeah, some people don't realize. They think it's just set somewhere in Russia. But
it is. The Ruskies are still Ruskieing, and it is about that. But what it has that is sneaky in there, and you don't always get it, the people are kicked out and told to move, but in fact, they leave to make a better life. And that's the American dream right there. And so whether the audience sees that or they feel that, oh, everybody's leaving, that's the subtext. That's how he wrote it.
There's hope.
There is
both for them and for the audience.
Hope.
And that gives something to grab onto.
Excuse me, there's always one little thing I've always wanted to do at the end of the shows, and directors have done it, and I don't know that anybody gets it, but it's really important to me. The fiddler is left behind, and Tevye gets to call the fiddler to join us, because that's tradition. But as he looks back at his best friend, who is God, I recall growing up, and just as a friend, you would go, come,
Yeah.
stay with me, join me. And I hope everybody feels that way.
So now you're going to make me cry on camera.
Well,
But I always cry at the end of Fiddler. I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard not to.
me too. There are lots of very personal moments in there. And there is a line that Huddle says, in this production, my daughter does play Huddle. God alone knows when we will see each other again.
Yeah.
And I have to say, it is a comment on aging. And I hear that line differently than I ever have before. So, hope I'm on the bench again. Thanks.
Thank you so much for coming,
Oh,
Dan.
thank you.
Back to the more mundane, how long does Fiddler run?
We go through Mother's Day, May
Okay.
12th.
Okay.
And we have actually added a Sunday night on May 5th, the week before. So, we're there.
Well, it's one of those, again, live theater, you're never going to experience
Yeah,
this particular cast at this particular time.
it
So,
is the truth.
All right. Well, thanks for coming.
Thank you, Donald.
And you can go to gcplayers.com to get tickets for Fiddler, and also on Golden Pond, which is playing at the Second Space Theater. And now let's welcome our second guests. Adrian Oseguera is here to talk about Selma Art Center's Matilda, and he's here with one of the Matildas herself. I'm very excited about this. Welcome to the Munro Review.
Good to be here.
So as we tape this, you have just finished your second weekend of performances, and you're going to be heading into another 2 weeks of
Correct.
performances, and you go through May
4th.
May
We close
4th.
on May 4th.
So, Adrian, can you tell us a little bit more about that schedule and how you've divided the casts?
Yeah, so we had a lot of auditionees come out, and it really stems back to COVID. So once COVID hit and we had those restrictions and we had people dropping out because of COVID, we've kind of instated, hey, let's double cast as much as possible, not only to give as many people opportunities, but to also make sure that we have natural backups in case something happens, right? We just learned how scary a time like that can be. So we're trying to protect ourselves a little bit. And, we haven't found the perfect way of doing that. We've done shows where you alternate every other show, so it's a different cast, alternating shows. And for Matilda, we're doing alternating weekends, so we have two casts: the naughty cast, which is led by Miss Charlotte, and then we have the revolting cast, which is led by our Matilda Eliana. And there's all of the main children plus the Wormwood parents are different in those casts. And so, yeah, we have these natural understudies in that. And have we found the perfect way of doing it? No, but it's working so far for Matilda, and it's worked for other shows.
Have you had to have anybody fill in yet? Or-
Actually, there have been instances, but they were more conflicts that we knew about ahead of time. So we haven't had to bring in an emergency cover yet. I wish there was wood I could knock on.
Right.
But we're prepared in case that needs to happen.
So, Charlotte, I was reading about the original Broadway production, and I think there were 3 main Matildas. And so I'm not sure how they divided. I mean, they did 8 performances a week. How hard do you think it would be to do this role like 5 or 6 times a week? Do you think you could do that?
Probably, because it's just like really fun, and then like once you go, you just don't want to stop.
Okay. You sing a lot in the show. Does your voice get tired? Do you have to take care of it when you're not on stage?
Yeah, mostly just like drinking water and honey water.
You're young. You're indestructible, right? You don't.
You can tell the truth. I'll just cover my ears.
You don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about that. What do you like playing about Matilda, or what do you like about the character?
I like how she isn't like, she's not like other kids. She's not like hyper. She's more mature for her age and like super smart. And like the way she talks to people is just like certain way.
She's very self-assured.
Yeah.
She knows how to talk to people, and she also knows how to kind of use her intelligence to get what she wants. You know, another thing I really love about Matilda and the show is that Matilda loves to read.
Oh yeah.
And I love to read, and I love that the show kind of makes a big deal about reading. Do you remember, as when you were little, did you read the book version of Matilda?
I think I did. I'm pretty sure because, well, I think I watched the movie. No, wait. Which one came out first? Was it the book?
Well, the book has been around for a long time, and then I think they made a non-musical movie.
Yeah.
And then they did the musical, and then they did a movie version of the musical. But I hear that you've watched the movie version of the musical a lot, right?
Yeah.
It's a great movie. Adrian, getting a little bit more into that books idea.
Right.
You represent books even in the scenic
Right.
design.
Yeah, I mean, one of the bases or the things that make Matilda who she is her intelligence, and the fact that she doesn't have those parents that we idolize, right? She doesn't have the ideal parenting system around her, so everything that she's learned is from books. Books are so important to Matilda because they've taught her pretty much everything that she knows, and they drive who she really is, right? So she gets a viewpoint of the world not only from what's around her currently, which, if we have to say so, is negative, right? Because she doesn't have the parents, she doesn't have the friends, she's got an evil principal at school, right? But she finds these friends in her books, right? I always, when talking about the importance of books and Matilda, I always think back to the original movie, who did it so well, where there's a scene, there's no words being spoken, but you can see Matilda reading a book and just a single tear falls from her eye onto the page. And it's like, these are people that mean something to her, right? And the world that she lives in. And I love that they take that and turn it on its side, and now Matilda becomes the storyteller in the show with the acrobat stories. And, literature is just ingrained all throughout the show. And so, I mean, I think it just plays into exactly who Matilda is.
I like it too because Matilda has at least two adults who are so kind to her, which really if it wasn't for Miss Honey and for the librarian,
Miss Phelps.
Miss Phelps, Matilda's life wouldn't be the same, right? So I think it's also almost a message to all adults that you can make a difference in a child's life.
Right.
You don't, even if their parents are, not up to snuff. Is it funny for you to act opposite the gentleman who plays Miss Trunchbull? And remind me his name again?
David.
David. Do you ever crack up, or do you almost want to laugh just because it's so ridiculous?
Yes, there was this one time in Bruce, I think it was a rehearsal or it was a show, but for Bruce, there were these parts where we froze, where Bruce was doing his monologue, and he just made the funniest face at me, and I'm sitting there, or I'm standing there, and I'm like, okay, I have to stare at this for a little bit now.
It's hard. It's hard when you're supposed to remain frozen. Adrian, what were your biggest challenges as a director, just getting all this material on stage?
I think the fact that the story, I mean, the script is written decently well, but it does tend to switch locations pretty quickly and without any notice. And so for us, it was, how can we kind of have representation of all the scenes that we're going to encounter throughout the show, pretty much in plain sight the whole show, but without making it obvious that we're there, making it obvious that we're in the place that we're supposed to be. So scene setting was particularly difficult, but I think we did a great job. You know, my co-directors, it goes without saying, Sammy Valle and Nicolette Anderson, really did more on that part. That's their expertise, the set design, and finding ways that we can flow between the scenes to make it very obvious that we're in a different location, in a different setting, was one of the bigger challenges. And then for us, you know, a lot of our cast is 11. Charlotte's 11, and she happens to be probably one of the older kids in the cast, right? So this material doesn't hold back on you know, themes of needing support and you know, even bullying, right? What do you do, especially when it's coming from an adult and those situations? But they don't necessarily have that life experience yet, right? So getting the actor to connect with the material, of course, I think anybody that tackles this show is going to be a difficult time, just because they don't have the experience to back up what they're trying to portray. And so we had to come up with clever ways of connecting them to that material, right? Of course, we don't want them to go down any dark, you know, mental holes. We're going to stay away from that, but helping them see it in a different way so they understand at least the emotion that they should be putting behind it was a challenge, to say the least, particularly in the song Quiet.
Charlotte, do you have a favorite part of Matilda?
Probably when, I don't know, it's just all so good. Probably the beginning when she comes out and telling the acrobat stories.
Telling the acrobat stories, okay.
Specifically Acrobat Story 3.
Well, good. That's good to know. Now, you're going to sing a song for us. Can you tell us a little bit about which song you're going to do and what's happening in the show for people who haven't seen it?
I'm going to do Naughty, and that's when she's basically putting in, like, making her dad's hair green, basically.
Her dad's hair green?
Yeah.
Okay. That's one of the highlights for little kids, I'm sure. Well, I really appreciate both of you coming today. We're going to hear from Charlotte. Is there anything else about Matilda that you wanted to let people know? No,
I mean, we hope that anybody watching this gets an opportunity to come out and see all the hard work that both of these casts have honestly put into this show. It's, like I said, it doesn't hold back. It's a monster of a show, and to just see young performers, I won't say children, but young performers really pull this off when they're on stage 80% of the time is a feat in itself, right? A lot of individual credit goes to each one of the performers for putting in the time necessary. So like I mentioned, we close May 4th. I hope to see plenty of new faces out there. I know you haven't had the chance to come down to see the show yet.
I have to head down
So I hope there's some time for you to come down and join us. And yeah, we'll have ourselves a good time.
Okay. Well, great. Thank you again. And after the break, we are going to hear a song from Matilda. And now, Charlotte Nelson performing Naughty from Matilda.
Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. So they say the subsequent fall was inevitable. They never stood a chance, they were written that way. Innocent victims of their story. Like Romeo and Juliet, 'twas written in the stars before they even met. That love and fate and a touch of stupidity would rob them of the hope of living happily. The endings are often a little bit gory. I wonder why they didn't just change their story. We're told we have to do it, we're told, but surely sometimes you have to be a little bit naughty. Just because you find that life's not fair, it doesn't mean that you just have to grin and bear it. If you always take it on the chin and wear it, nothing will change. Even if you're little, you can do a lot. You mustn't let a little thing like little stop you. If you sit around and let them get on top, you might as well be saying you think that it's okay, and that's not right. And if it's not right, you have to put it right. Platinum blonde hair dye, extra strong. Keep out of reach of children. Oil of violet's hair tonic for men. Yep. In the slip of a boat, there's a tiny revolt. The seed of a war in the creak of a floorboard. A storm can begin with a flap of a wing. The tiniest might packs the mightiest thing every day. Start with the tick of a clock, all escapes start with the click of a lock. If you're stuck in your story and want to get out, you don't have to cry, you don't have to shout, 'cause if you're little you can do a lot. You mustn't let a little thing like little stop you. If you sit around and let them get on top, you won't change a thing. Just because you find that life's not fair, it doesn't mean that you just have to grin and bear it. If you always take it on the chin and wear it, you might as well be saying you think that it's okay, and that's not right. And if it's not right, you have to put it right. But nobody else is gonna put it right for me. Nobody but me is gonna change my story. Sometimes you have to be a little bit naughty.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. That was wonderful. It's one of my favorite songs. That wraps it up for this month's, come on folks, that wraps it up for this month's episode of the Munro Review on CMAC. Be sure to keep up online at munroreview.com for previews, giveaways, profiles, reviews, and more. A big thank you to our crew, a thank you to all of our guests, and for all of you, please keep exploring and supporting the local art scene. We'll see you next time.